Hello guys, welcome back to Mr. Deep Coding channel. This is another episode on the Kotlin Multiplatform social media app series. And today we are going to write the presentation layer code for the profile screen on the Android side. Before we dive into coding, I wanted to take a moment to address something important about this ongoing social media app series. I know many of you have been following along since we started a year ago, and I truly appreciate your support, and your comments means a lot to me. I love sharing my knowledge and helping you all learn and grow as developer. However, I want to be honest about why this series is still going and why I can't always meet the expectations you might have. The reality is, while I'd love to be doing YouTube full-time, right now it's just not possible. I have a full-time job that requires a lot of my attention, and I try my best to record videos whenever I have free time. Because of this, I can't give an exact date for when this series will end, but one thing is true, I'm really committed to seeing it through, and I will keep sharing as much as I can. Maybe someday, if I can make YouTube my full-time focus, we'll be able to set clear timelines for our projects together. Now, thank you for your understanding and patience and continued support. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, now first of all, let's go inside profileviewModel.kt. And for the UI state, we need to modify a couple of things. We should normally turn this into a val for the error message property. We will do the same for the user info UI state. Then inside profile post UI state, we need to add one more property called endReach. It's a boolean and the default value is going to be false. We are going to turn this isLoading to have a false by default. Also, we need to, instead of sample post, we need to pass here our post from the domain.model package. And for the profile, now this profile is actually pointing to our dummy data. We need to take profile that we have inside domain.model in our shared module. And of course, we can scroll up here to remove this import statement. Then we will not need this package qualifier anymore. All right, then we can scroll up. We can remove all of these for now. Then next we need to pass the get profile use case here in the constructor of our profile view model. Then scroll down inside a profile method. We need to make the user ID a long type instead of integer. Now inside this launched code scene, we are going to call get profile use case, and for the profile ID we will pass user ID. Now since this is returning a flow, so we will call this intermediate operator on each. Then we can call collect. Now inside here we will have a result of type profile, so we can use our when expression to check for each result. Alright, so in case we've got result error, then we will do user info UI state.copy. We will pass isLoading to false, and for the error message we'll pass it.message. Then if the result is successful, here we're going to pass user info UI state.copy isLoading false, and the profile is going to be it.data. Now let's open profile screen.kt. Of course, here we get some errors that we need to fix quickly. Here for the image URL, it's not profile URL anymore. It's exactly image URL. And then if you scroll down here, it's post ID instead of ID, and we don't need to convert to domain post anymore. Okay, now I guess that gets rid of pretty much all the errors we've got for now. One more thing is to remove this condition. One more thing before we test the fetch profile functionality. Let's open the I package and appmodule.kt. As you can see here, we need to call a get because now we are passing the get profile use case. All right, so I've got my device connected. We are going to run and test the fetch profile functionality. Alright, now you will run into this issue where the user ID is being passed as an integer and the fetch profile expect it to be a long. Now we can change that here. So change the type from integer to long, Of course, now this is going to add a bunch of error. Let's just convert it to integer for now, and we'll fix this later. Also, we need to go on the calling side to make sure that we pass a long instead of an integer. So, okay, we need to open where profile destination is being used. First of all, let's go inside home.kt. Of course, here we first of all need to rebuild our project to apply changes. Right now, because the followers and destination and also following destination expect the user ID here to be of type integer, this is going to also generate a lot of errors. To avoid converting to integer or to long every time we need to pass this user ID, let's make every destination that expect a user ID or profile ID to be of long for the data type. I will fast forward the video and you can just make every user ID to be of type long, and then you need to rebuild your project. All right, now here I assume that you have changed every user ID parameter in your destinations to be of type long. You can always refer to my GitHub repository to see what has changed and try to fix your code if there are some errors that you can fix. Okay, so now let's run and test the fetch profile functionality. All right, so the app is launching and okay. So let's now try to go to Mr. Deep profile. And there we go. Okay, we have successfully retrieved Mr. Deep information. As you can see, we have 2 followers and 2 following for Mr. Deep, but we cannot see the profile image for now. Okay, we'll try to see what happens. Let's try to navigate to somebody else's profile. Oh, okay. So it seems that we are just following Mr. Deep. So let's try to create a new account and follow some other people. All right. So here I'm trying to create a new account. The name is Jonathan, joe@gmail.com. The password is 12345. Let's create this new account. Okay. So we will land on the home screen. Okay. Instead of following some people, let's just scroll down and see some other profile we can navigate to. Let's, for example, click here on John Sion. As you can see, we have retrieved John information. He has 1 follower. All right, now to quickly fix the image URL not showing, we need to go inside profilescreen.kt and we will need to scroll to this composable here, profile header section. Let's make this image URL nullable. Then we need to scroll. So here for the circle image URL, we need to call to current image URL our mapper function to current image URL, this one here. So let's run and test our application one more time. All right, so we will try to navigate to Mr. Deep profile. Okay, now this time the profile image loads successfully. Now let's scroll and click on somebody else's profile. We'll, for example, click on John. And let's see if the image URL loads successfully. And there we go. One last thing that we need to do for the header section is the follow click action. We need to be able to follow and unfollow this user here. All right, guys, now to follow the user, we will first of all have here the follow or unfollow our use case. So we need this dependency here. Then right below fetch profile method, here we're going to define a new private method. We call this as follow user. Now this need to take profile. Then in here, we'll take the view model scope and launch a new coroutine. After we launch this new coroutine, we're not going to call follow or unfollow right away because that's going to suspend this coroutine and we will have to wait for us to update the UI. So what we're going to do is that we will first of all update the UI. So for the is following, we will toggle it. Then after that, we will define this result and call follow or unfollow use case. You can see that this is suspending. If we had to put it as the first statement to be executed, it will suspend this coroutine, and to update our UI, we'll have to wait until we get this result here. So now, once we get the result, we're going to check and see if the result is successful or it's an error. So now here it's simple. In case we get an error, we are just going to set the UI state to the previous state, right? So we just take the is following that comes here in the profile argument. Now, in case we got a success result, for now we're not going to do anything because we have already updated our UI. So we pass unit here. Next, right below our UI state data classes here, we will do the same as what we did in the home screen. So I will define here a new set interface to represent the UI action. For now, we have only two UI actions. We have fetch profile action. This needs to take the profile ID, and we also have follow user action that takes the profile. Then we can scroll up here right below follow user. Now here we will define a onUI action method, and then we will check for when the UI action, for example, is profile UI action.fetch profile action. We are going to call the fetch profile method. For when the UI action is follow user action, we're going to call the follow user method. All right, now we can scroll up and make our fetch profile. I guess we can make it private. Let's go in profile screen.kt, and we can scroll up to profile screen composable. Right below profile post UI state, we are going to add two new parameters. The first one is this profile ID. Now I'm passing this profile ID here because I would like to launch the fetch profile action only when we enter the composition here inside profile screen. Okay, so then we have the onUI action. Now this of course will replace some of the function parameters that we have here. On comment click also and on like click, we need to remove these two. Okay, now this on button click is not really clear about which button we are talking about, so I'm going to rename that. Now since we are clicking on the follow, and also the same button act as the edit profile button, so let's just call it, so I'm going to refactor and call it unfollow button click instead. Then for the last three function parameters here, we have on followers click, on following click, and on post click. Now these are the callback to navigate to different screens, the followers screen, following screen, and also the post detail screen. I will rename these three function parameters on followers screen navigation, on following screen navigation, and also on post detail navigation. Now if you scroll down, so for the on followers click, we will just call on follower screen navigation. Here also we're going to call on following screen navigation. Then we can again scroll down. Now the fetch data will be replaced by on UI action, profile UI action dot fetch profile action. For the profile ID, we'll pass at the newly added parameter profile ID. All right, now let's go inside profile.kt. Of course, here we're going to get a lot of errors. Okay, let me for now just remove all of these. Then right below profile post UI state, we need to pass the profile ID and on UI action. Then for the unfollow button click, we are not just going to navigate to edit profile destination. Inside this lambda, we are going to call viewModel.user.info.UI.state.profile and check if that's not null. If we get a profile, then we will check if the profile is own profile. Then we will call navigator to navigate to the edit profile destination. If it's not the user own profile, then we're going to call viewModel.onUI action, and this action is the follow user action. And in that case, we need to pass the profile. Okay, so lastly, we need three callbacks on followers screen navigation, on following screen navigation, and also on post detail navigation. Okay, so here we need to navigate to followers destination, but we don't need to convert this to integer anymore. Okay, so I've got my device connected again, but before we test the follow functionality, we need to open appmodule.kt because now we are passing the follow or unfollow use case. So here we need to call get. Okay, so then we can run and test the application. So there we go. We've got some users. Let's try to navigate to Mr. Deep profile. From here, we can click on the follow button. Okay, so I guess it should have followed Mr. Deep, but we haven't changed the UI for this button when we follow or unfollow, so we need to do that. So even though it didn't update here automatically, let's try to go back and then come again. Okay, so this time you can see that the followers count got updated. We also need to work on that. The button still have this blue color. Okay, let's fix that quickly. All right, now to update the UI when we follow or unfollow the user, let's go inside profile screen.kt. Then we need to navigate where we have the profile header section composable. Inside this composable, we have the follow button. We are going to replace this with a when expression. So here we will say when it's the current user, the text should be edit profile destination title. Now, if you look at this text here, it just say edit profile. But what I'm going to do here is that I will duplicate this and let's call it edit profile label instead. We will just take this, because the title, the destination title may change, so we don't need to have conflict here. Instead, we will just pass edit profile label. Now, when the current user is following this user that they are viewing the profile, we will set the text to be unfollow text label. For any other case, we will just set it to be follow text label. Okay, so next we need to go where we are calling this profile header section composable. Not there. Okay, now here we need to pass two parameters, the is following and also is current user. We can go inside the profile view model, and here we need to scroll up. Let's first define this count here. When profile is following, we will decrement the number of followers. Here we also need to pass for the followers count. Followers count will be equal to profile followers count plus the count. So if the result is not successful, we couldn't follow the current, we couldn't follow this user. So in that case, we will also need to reset the followers count. So we just need to pass profile.followers count. So the number that we had before we send this request here. We can now run and test our application one more time. Now, of course, here, as you can see, since we have followed Mr. Deep, so I will go here and unfollow before the app launches so that we will come back to the same state. Okay, so the app is launching. Let's go to Mr. Deep profile again. You can see he has two followers. You can follow Mr. Deep and the number of followers increased also. And you can see that the button UI also changed. Now, if I go back and I navigate to this profile again, you can see that Mr. Deep has 3 followers and we are following Mr. Deep. Let's also try to follow somebody else. John Sion here, we'll try to follow him as well. The UI got updated. Now, if we go and refresh this page, you will see that the onboarding section here will disappear because we have followed some people. There we go. Now we are getting just posts from people that we follow. So if we unfollow John and we come back, we can try to load our post again, and you can see that this time we're not seeing John's post. All right, now next, let's start working on the profiles post. All right, now for the profile post, we will come here inside profile view model.kt. Now the first thing we need is the get user post use case to be passed to profile view model constructor. After getting this get user post use case property, we can scroll down and right above this follow user method, we are going to create a new private method called create paging manager. Now, of course, we need to import paging manager. So this method needs to return an instance of paging manager. The difference with the paging manager, the create paging manager method that we had on the home screen is that this time we need the profile ID to be passed in order to create the paging manager, because when we send a request to get profile for a particular user, we need also to send the profile ID for which we want to retrieve the post. So of course, I also forgot to declare here the paging manager as a let init var, and then coming back here we will need to return our default paging manager, and in here we will need to pass 4 lambdas. We have on request, on success, on error, and on load state change. Coming here for the on request, here we will use a get user post use case, and we will pass the user ID as profile ID, Now you can see why we needed this profile ID, and we've got the page that we get here, and also the page size, which we set to be the default request page size. Now, in case we get a successful result, if the page of post that we get here is empty, then we'll just set the end reach to be true. Otherwise, we will add the list of posts, this page of post that we get here, to the list of posts that we already have in profile post UI state. And we will set the end reached to be true if the post.size, this page of post that we get here, is less than our default request page size. Now for the error case, we will just set the error message to be this message here passed in the on error. Then for onload state change, we just need to set the is loading to be the boolean that will be passed here. All right, so I guess that's it for the create paging manager. Right above this create paging manager method, we are going to create a new private method. This one is called fetch profile post. Now this method will be called if we want to retrieve the first page of post, normally after getting the user profile information. In here, we need to make sure that if profile post UI state is loading or a profile post UI state is not empty, in that case we return, because this method should be called only when we want to retrieve the first page of posts. So if it's not the case, then we will check to see if the paging manager has not been initialized. So for that reason, we have this exclamation mark to say if paging manager is not initialized, we set paging manager to create paging manager. So to make sure that we create this paging manager only once for the lifetime of our profile view model. All right, so then lastly, we will need to call paging manager.load items. Now, before we move to profile screen, we'll come right below this create paging manager. I'm going to create another private method. This is to load more posts. So we call this load more post. And of course, here we are checking if the profile post UI state end is not reached. If it's the case, we return. If not, we launch a new coroutine and we call paging manager.load items. All right, now we can scroll up and come inside fetch profile. So when the result is successful, in that case, we are going to call fetch profile post. And for the post ID, for the profile ID, we will pass a user ID. All right, and then lastly, for the profile view model, we need to scroll. Now here inside profile UI action, we're going to create load more post action. Okay, then we need to come here to add the remaining branch, this branch here, for loading more post action, and we need to call load more posts. All right, now let's open profile screen.kt. Here we have most of the required UI. The only thing that we need to work on is the loading more functionality. So first of all, we will come here and define this lazy list state by calling remember lazy list state. Then below, as what we did on the home screen, we are going to have a derived state for loading more posts. So it's going to be a boolean that tells us when it's time to load more posts. Now, of course, if you watched my previous video, you should be familiar with this code here. First, we get the layout info by calling this lazy state.layout info. Then we get the visible items info and we check if the total count is equal to 0, we just return false. Else, we will get the last visible item by calling visible items info.last. And then the should fetch more post will be true when the last visible item the index plus 1 equals to layout info dot total items count. All right, and now we need to scroll right below this launched effect. We need another launch effect to send the request to load more post. And of course, this is not different from what we did for the home screen. So the key here is should fetch more post, and inside this launch effect we check to see if the boolean is true, and also we need to make sure that we haven't reached the end of our pagination. So if this condition is met, in that case we call on UI action profile UI action dot load more post action. Now, of course, I've got my device already connected, but before we run and test our application, we need to add the loading spinner item in our lazy column. So right below this items block, I'm going to paste the code for the loading spinner. Now, what we're doing here is that we are checking if profile post UI state is in loading state. If that's the case, then we need to add this item here in our lazy column. We also need to go inside the DI and open app module.get, since profile view model is now taking the get user post use case. We need to call get for coin to inject that dependency. All right, so I guess now we can run and test our application. All right, so the app is launching. Let's wait and see what you've got here. Let's directly try to navigate to Mr. Deep profile. Okay, you can see the loading spinner to load a post, and there we go. We could load Mr. Deep post. Now, of course, there's no pagination because the number of posts returned from the server is, of course, less than the default request page size, which is of 5 posts. So we requested 5 posts. Now, since the number of posts published by Mr. Deep is less than 5, then the end reached was set to true. Therefore, there was no loading spinner at the bottom here to load more posts. What we can do to test it and make sure that it actually works, we can, let me look for that default page, default request page size, and we will maybe set that to 1. So that we can test and see if our pagination is working. Okay, let's set that to 2. Since Mr. Deep has 3 posts, we will be able to see another spinner to load more posts. All right, so the app is launching one more time. Okay, so there we go. Let's try to navigate to Mr. Deep profile again. Let me try to scroll. Okay, the spinner is not showing, and we couldn't load the second page of posts. Okay, so it seems that something is not working. Now, the reason this is not working is because we created we defined this lazy state here, but we didn't pass that to our lazy column. So we need to pass that as our second argument. So we call state and pass lazy list state, and hopefully this time it's going to work. Okay, so the app is launching. All right, so we've got our page of posts. Let's navigate to Mr. Deep profile. There we go. We are loading the post. We can try to scroll, and as you can see, this time the loading spinner shows, and we loaded a second page of post. All right, so it's working. Next, let's work on the like functionality. All right, now for the like functionality, of course, coming here inside profile view model, we need to take the like post use case, like or dislike post use case. Then we can scroll all the way down right below follow user. So here we're going to create a new private method to like or dislike a post. Now this takes in a post, and of course in here we would like to launch a new coroutine view model scope launch. Now inside this launched coroutine, we will define this count val here. If post is liked, we're going to decrement the count. Otherwise, we're going to increment it by 1. Below this count, we are going to define another variable, updated post. So we will make a copy of the post as we receive here. We change the is liked. We just toggle it. For the number of likes count, we just add the count to our likes count. Below this updated post, before we call like or dislike post use case to send a request to like or dislike a post, we are going to set the UI of our profile post UI state. For the post that was liked, we will change it and put the updated post instead. Here we will define this result and call like post use case. We'll pass the post here. Now, when the result is error, we will simply roll back to the post that we had before. Let's quickly add the remaining branches. So here, when the result is error, we simply roll back to the post that was passed here, because so in case we got a success result, since we have already changed the UI here, we will not do anything. We can just pass unit here. All right, so next we need to scroll down inside our seed interface for the profile UI action. We are going to add one last action, that is the post like action. And now we need to scroll up and add this branch to our one expression. For post like action, we need to call a like or dislike post and pass in UI action.post. All right, now let's go inside profile screen.kt. So let's scroll down and locate this post list item call. So for when the post is liked, we are simply going to call our on UI action, profile UI action, post like action, and we will pass this post here. All right, so now we can run and test the like functionality of our application. Oh yes, of course, now we are taking the like or dislike use case. We need to call get again for coin to inject that dependency. Okay, we've got our first page of post. Let's now navigate to Mr. Deep profile. Okay, so here we'll try to like this post. As you can see, the post was liked. When we go back, you can already spot the first problem that we'll encounter. The problem is that the post on the home screen is not updated. So if we go back, you can see that the post was liked. And when we come back, you will need to refresh in order to see this post updated here. All right, now to establish a communication between the home view model and the profile view model, we will make use of the event bus pattern. Let's go inside our common package here and inside a util package. Now in this util package, let's create a new Kotlin file and we will name this one as event bus. All right, now in here, I'm going to declare a sealed interface called event. And for now, it has only this data class post updated, to which we need to pass the post that was updated. Let's define an object called event bus. And in here, we will define a mutable shared flow. We call this events. And of course, this is private and we expose the read-only shared flow. Let's create this constant here, event bus buffer capacity. So open constant.kt. And for this event bus buffer capacity, we will set that to 5. Coming back inside event bus, and right below this mutable shared flow, we will define this method to send the event. And what we do is simply we are emitting the event that was passed here. Let's import this. Now we have our event and the event bus. Let's open profile viewModel.kt. Right below this like or dislike post method, I'm going to define here a private method that we will call update post. This needs to be passed a post, and what it does is it calls profile post UI state.copy. For the post that we need to update, we'll pass it here. If it.postid equals to post.postid, otherwise we will pass just it. Of course, now this is really important because now we can come here and replace this code with update post. We will do the same here. We can call update post and pass post this time. Coming here for the successful case, we're not passing unit anymore. We will instead call event pass and send a new event. So now what we're doing is that we can open home screen view model. And here in the init block, right below fetch data, in here we will collect our event and update our UI accordingly. So we call event bus.event. For each emitted event, we will check if it's post updated. Then we need to define, of course, this method here, update post. Of course, we call a launched in to launch the coroutine inside our view model scope. All right, now we can scroll below. We also have this like or dislike method, and right below it we are going to define the same method as what we have in our profile view model. So we have it here. This is home. This is post feed UI state. We can do the same thing here. We just need to call update post and we will need to pass post. Okay, now let's quickly run and test the application. We need to make sure that when we go to the profile screen and we update one of the posts either by liking it or if we dislike it, the home screen should also update automatically. So let's go to Mr. D profile. Now this time if we dislike this post and we hit back, you can see that this post was updated automatically. So let's scroll down and maybe let's go one more time to Mr. Deep profile. This time we can scroll. We need to like this post here. If we go back, as you can see, the post also was updated. If we go to Mr. Deep one more time and we dislike this post, as we go back, the post also was updated. All right, so I guess that's it for the profile screen. We managed to fetch the user information. We are able to follow the user on the profile screen, and we could also fetch posts from this user, and we also able to like and dislike these posts. In the next episode, we will work on the short code for the post detail screen, and then we will also come on entry to implement the post detail screen. I will see you in the next episode, and as for now, take care. Bye.